I'm Roy Nascimento. I'm President and CEO of the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and the North Central Massachusetts Economic Development Corporation. And in our role as a business organization and as an economic development organization, we organized and hosted a manufacturing bus tour for superintendents and education leaders in the region, as well as some of our elected officials and members of the media, to visit some of our advanced manufacturers in the region, to learn a little bit more about modern manufacturing and what's involved in the industry, as well as to promote careers in manufacturing and promote the skills that are needed in today's manufacturing environment. And our first visit was to a manufacturer, Rocheleau Tool and Die, here in Fitchburg, family-owned business with about 65 employees, a plastics mold manufacturer, and wonderful family-owned business that's been long-standing here in Fitchburg, provides a lot of good paying jobs, career ladders, and we were able to hear directly from management at the company, as well as some of the employees, about the career in plastics manufacturing, about career ladders that are there, about salaries and good benefits that are involved, and about some of the opportunities and challenges in the industry.
The company was started by my grandfather, 1938, so 78 years ago. In 1941, the birth of my father, the youngest of seven, his mother died at childbirth, so my grandfather found himself in a position of a new 3-year-old company and 7 kids and no wife. So the effort of the shop having to be successful became pretty important pretty quick. So through the 40s, 50s, we did a lot of general machine shop work. My grandfather, being is the first generation, coming in from Quebec, worked on a farm in northern Vermont before moving into the machining industry, so had that kind of farm boy ingenuity, manufacturing. So through the 50s, they started making product. We made grinding fixtures and cutting tool fixtures, so we always made product as part of what we did aside from job shop work. This area really grew in plastics, obviously, as everybody knows. A lot of the work they did in the 50s, early 60s became plastics related. By the mid-1960s, we designed some of the first blow molding machinery and injection molding machinery that we built. And now, in the last 40 some odd years, really what we've done is we've progressed into a machinery manufacturer. But not only just that, but we really define ourselves now as a packaging supplier, as a key component to packaging supplier in a global packaging industry. So part of the challenge as a small company, and part of this mix and how we fit here, is we have a lot of different needs, but we don't have a big need in any one area. So here, we have 45 people that work in this facility, but that involves design, engineering, it involves administration and how we deal with getting product through the floor. It involves the machine shop, mold makers, it involves assembly people, it involves service people, because when we build this equipment, you'll see some on the assembly side, and we ship it somewhere, break it down and ship it, our guys follow it, reset it up, and set up and train people. So those employees for us become our face in the world, and how Rocheleau is perceived in many ways is because of what our people on the floor that go out to those plants and are willing to get on a plane and go to Thailand and spend 10 days in a row in a country that you're neither comfortable nor familiar with. So it's a big challenge in those areas. In the production facility, we have demands. It's a 24-hour operation, more or less. So there's demands of getting people to work at night. And again, we don't have a lot of demand in any one area. So when people say, how do you define your needs? What can you tell educators? What do you need? Well, we need a little bit of everything. I don't know. I mean, really, it's even down to how we manage inventory now. For us to build machinery and sell it and send it, the last 2 years, our biggest endeavor has been going on live inventory. So everything is on everybody in this company needs to be able to read bills of materials, blueprints, and say, how do we go from a bill of materials to a work order to a work in process to that goes out the door. But it's not just building it. We have so much tribal knowledge from 50 years of building stuff, well, we can't rely on tribal knowledge. We need to close that loop, and we need technology. So everything is computer related. Everything that we do kind of flows back. So the level of skills that's needed in every position becomes higher and higher. Now, do we need fully, bachelor degree college education? Not so much. Out of 65 people, we have maybe 10 at the most that are bachelor degree level. There's a couple, probably 2, 3 that are 2-year degree, and then everybody else is either high school or certificate level of education. So it's not necessarily high-level engineering that we need only, but it's technology and skills at every level in every job. There's not one job in this company that doesn't involve that technology. So that's an important loop, and we're very thankful to be in this area because I think our schools do a great job. I think we hear a lot about skills gap, and that doesn't, it exists. To some degree, we're responsible for that as much as education system is responsible for that. Part of the gap that we feel most is, you hear the soft skills stuff, and we're not. This generation of kids coming up is probably the smartest, most educated group of people ever to live, but how they link and how they realize their position in the company, manufacturing has a process, and it's exciting. You guys are going to see a lot of different. You get to go to all 3 companies. You get some very different things you're going to see today.
Our second visit was to a much smaller manufacturer. It was Burkhardt Phelan. They are a manufacturer of high-end flutes and piccolos, precision metal shop where they manufacture these instruments. And we learned about the skills that are required, the educational background that are required for employees there, as well as some of the career ladders that are in that industry in manufacturing.
Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here at Burkhardt Flutes. We are a small company of usually 24 employees. We, as one of the 3 visits you will make today, we, of course, are the smallest, but there are a lot of small businesses in Massachusetts. And we would like to show you what we do here. We'd like to talk to you about here we go. Thank you, Ethan. And I'd like to talk with you a bit about the type of employees that we have, that we need to run Burkhardt Flutes. What Ethan just brought in for us are we have 3 of the flutes that we make or manufacture here. This is a very unique mix in manufacturing anywhere in the world. We are a boutique manufacturer in that we make a very specialized, high-end, expensive, custom-built instrument for musicians. The instruments that we make here are not typically what you would find, what your 5th grade student would start in beginning band. This instrument is, we make a level of flute and piccolo that someone progressing on to more serious study, perhaps a high school student who's ready. Parents are serious about private lessons, they're dedicated to music and really enjoying it. Then they would potentially come to us for that sort of progressing pre-professional instrument. Now, what our core product is a hand-built flute made of precious metals, that is silver, solid silver, gold. And here, and I'll just pass it around in front of you all, is one of our solid 14-karat gold flutes.
Oh, wow.
This instrument, it being one of the higher-end instruments that we make, sells for approximately $38,000 to $45,000. So if you're a serious musician and this is your career, you need this tool to really accomplish what you want. Now, not everyone plays a gold flute. Many flutes prefer the silver flute is the most common instrument that we make. So here at Burkhardt, we're housing very expensive precious metals all the time, and the people that work for us are both in our machine shop are trained CNC machine operators, as well as the other end of our employees are flutists who are school, college performance degree, probably at least a bachelor's degree in fluid performance. Some have master's degrees. And because we build instruments that are not only beautiful, museum quality, but also performed on every day as a working tool, it has to be tested to a level of performance that requires a real understanding of the instrument.
And then we visited Nitro in Devens. They're based out of Clinton, Massachusetts. They're a global manufacturer, plastics manufacturer involved in the life science industries. They manufacture a lot of medical devices for the industry, and they have expanded in the region to Devens. We visited their facility there, which was a high-tech manufacturing facility where they manufacture a lot of these products for the global healthcare market. And we learned a little bit about they're an example of a very large global manufacturer, and we were able to tour that facility and heard from their management about some of their challenges, some of the opportunities, some of the career opportunities that they have there, as well as some of the partnerships that they already have with schools.
So I'm Bill Burke. I'm the Director of Operations here at Devens and also the Clinton facility. And what we are is a custom injection molder of medical devices here. So the products we do are EpiPens, insulin pens is the biggest part of our customer base, and also inhalers, things of that. Anything that delivers a pharmaceutical device, drug. Right, so we're looking for a lot of people, a lot of folks from entry level to mid-level management, but most of it is for the factory floor. We're looking for manufacturing technicians, guys right out of high school with technical or vocational skills are great. People that can run molding machines. We're also looking for forklift guys, material handlers, people that can move goods, have an understanding of inventory. Also on the automation side, a lot of our molded products are assembled into a component. So we're looking for people with robotic skills, guys that have got some community college or certifications is a big plus. Those are the types of folks that we're actively recruiting. Yeah, it's a very modern, clean environment, and it's not your factory of old. Back in the day, people were afraid to send their kids out into the old factories. They were sweatshops. This is modern, it's clean. We have clean rooms where we're exchanging air. There's computerization out there, from laptops to automation that automates our equipment. So it's exciting and fun technology for all the folks that are looking to get into this type of enterprise. So, we're really looking for someone that wants to work, someone that's a hard worker with a good attitude that wants to come to work. We're not fixed on, love to have people with plastics experience or working with automation, but we're willing to look at any type of individual. The first aspect is really having that wanting to work, showing up to work, and that we can train those folks. So if they have a mechanical skill set, that is a definite plus. But we will talk to folks, that have worked in. I've had guys come from the fast food industry and say, "Wow, this is fantastic. This is clean. I can really grow and earn a good living doing this." Versus, working in fast food, $9 an hour. We start out $12, $14, and you can get up to $25, $30 in 2-3 years if you're very good with your position.
And then we ended the day at Mount Wachusett Community College, one of our partners. They have their Advanced Manufacturing Center in Devens. We were able to visit the center and hear from state education officials and had some good dialogue on the needs that industry has.
So I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very pleased to step in for Keith. And he's a character. I could sometimes recite some of his speeches. If you hear me say something kind of odd or silly, that's Keith speaking through me. I coordinate the Connecting Activities Initiative for the State Department of Elementary and Education, and I'm going to come back and tell you more about that. It's a really significant system that responds to the issues that I've already heard in the room. Obviously, when it comes to the question of getting students to be ready for the workforce, we have a lot of work to do. But what I think is so encouraging right now, coming from the State Department, is there's a lot going on. And for those of you who are in the room that are on the manufacturing or employer side, you may have heard of some of this work, or it may be new to you. But I'd like to share a lot with you about what is going on to comfort the folks who feel the skills gap, who feel the concerns about whether or not we have a pipeline of talent, because of course we really do. we have pretty remarkable students, and they are very talented, and they will be ready for the workforce, but we do have to offer them some supports. Well, I think what's happened in K through 12 recently is that we've come to the obvious recognition that academic skills alone are critically necessary but not sufficient. And so I think that what's so exciting for those of us, like myself, who have worked in all of these worlds, it's a very critical moment for education to kind of change it up. How do we make sure that the young people really are ready for the workforce? So let me highlight a couple of things that are going on right now in the field. First of all, a few years ago, both the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Board of Higher Education realized that we had to rethink just what is our purpose and what is our mission. And we used to say in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that our mission was to get kids ready for college. Case closed. That doesn't fit anymore. It's critically important that every student go on to some post-secondary education of some kind, but that can be an apprenticeship, it can be a one-year certification program, it can be a two-year program, it can be a four-year. So ESE, as we call ourselves, changed our mission, and our mission, very simply stated, is success after high school. So we didn't try to over-define it or limit it. We opened it up to all the various possibilities. Then the next thing that came down the pike was the need to address this question of what does it mean to be ready after high school? And we've expanded that definition now. It's a very positive evolution. We need to be ready in 3 domains now. We need to be ready in academics, in work readiness, and in the personal social domain. And I'm going to read you a sort of a wordy definition of this, but I think it's powerful stuff and worth sharing so that we all have it, except I can't find it right now. Here it is. This is long. Bear with me. I think this is worth sharing so that you in the business world and in the workforce world understand what we're trying to accomplish. We're saying now that there's a holistic definition of college and career readiness. It's that Massachusetts students who are college and career ready and prepared for civic life, which is another accent that needs to be struck, will demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are necessary to successfully complete entry-level credit-bearing college courses, hence coming to Mount Wachusett and being ready to take those credit-bearing courses, participate in certificate or workplace training programs. That's a nod, an important nod to some of the other pathways that students can take. Enter economically viable career pathways, and note the accent on economically viable. We're talking about having young people ready to go into jobs that are well-paying and family-sustaining. And engage as active and responsible citizens in our democracy. In order to meet this goal, the Commonwealth has defined a set of learning competencies, intellectual capacities, and experiences. Note the experiences part. That's really new for education. And that's new in the last few years, maybe arguably the last 20. But as an accent, we're really talking now about making sure there's something hands-on about the learning and getting our young people out into the workforce earlier and learning in the workforce. So experience is essential for all students to become lifelong learners, positive contributors to their families, workplaces, and communities, and successfully engaged citizens of the global 21st century. That's a mouthful. But nonetheless, I think it speaks to what we're trying to accomplish here, and it speaks, I think, very loudly to why this group is gathered. And so I want to just go back and thank Roy for this. I met Roy a long time ago, actually, down in the Brockton area, and I know Roy's joined your chamber, and you're lucky to have him. But when I was in the Brockton Public Schools before a transition to the workforce world and now the State Department of Ed, I worked with Roy and colleagues at the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. And what we did there is what I think you're striving for here and what is happening around the state, and that is we developed these kinds of partnerships that I see in this room, relationships between employers, workforce systems, chambers, and school systems. And I firmly believe, and I think we're kind of putting our money where our mouth is, that it has to happen no later than high school, and ideally even sooner than that. We have to start our young people getting ready for college and career, a both-and proposition, really no later than middle school. So a piece of the story I want to share is how in K through 12 we're now talking about career development education. What we're saying is that we need as schools, as teachers and educators and counselors, we need to offer our young people a progressive sequence of experiences that start with career awareness, move through into a career exploration sensibility, and then we're using the term career immersion for a final stage. So we have this sort of three-part sequence. Ideally, it's a 6 or 7 year proposition, and even better, another piece of jargon you'll hear, we were going to simultaneously, as we're doing this career development education over these years with our students, we're helping them with college and career planning and goal setting. So we've been using the term individual learning plans, ILPs. It's a little jargony, but nonetheless, I think it's intuitively obvious. You're a young person in middle school, you start to think about why everybody talks about going to college, and how do you get introduced to some career ideas, and how do you start checking out online and otherwise some possibilities in your region, in your state, in our nation. So the ILP idea goes hand in glove with the career development education idea. And as we move our school systems in that direction, I think we'll see better and better preparation for our students. Let me also say for our superintendents and school people, this is not a mandate. One of the best things about Massachusetts, I've internalized this, and I think you'll all understand it. We're a local control state. Our districts and our schools make all these important decisions about curriculum and instruction and graduation requirements. Generally, we make those decisions locally through our school committees and our superintendents. The state mandates very little for our high schools and our middle schools. We mandate that students pass the MCAS, and whatever its next iteration will be. We mandate some citizenship, U.S. history, and we mandate PE, and the rest is up to you. Now, that's not the norm across the country. There are lots of states where it's top-down, and folks are told what needs to happen to high school kids. So we have an interesting challenge. Sitting in my seat at the State Department, I want to support and encourage more and more efforts to do this more holistic body of work, so more students get this an integrated approach to career awareness, exploration, and immersion during their middle and high school years. It's not easy. I think our teachers and principals would say, well, how am I going to do that? I'm busy with the MCAS. I'm busy with math and ELA and science. How am I going to do it? And I think the answer lies in the community. And what I have said since Brockton and since other community work I've done is we need you, the employers, to be the resource and the support. And I think there's a substantial win-win to be had there. If you, the business community, and you, the workforce system, and you, the chambers, can come forward and offer mechanisms for letting young people get some awareness, get some exploration, and then ultimately get that internship or that part-time job, you become a significant resource to the schools. And it shouldn't feel, and it doesn't need to feel like a burden or a lot of extra work for you. Admittedly, with smaller businesses, I know, we've got to worry about the bottom line. We've got to worry about our profit, and we have to worry about whether we have the time and capacity to do this. But what we've seen is that employers who start small, doing a guest speaker one day at a school, or letting a job shadow come into the shop one day, start to build those connections and relationships with folks in the workforce system and in the schools, and pretty soon it feels more seamless and it doesn't feel so difficult to do, and pretty soon you're training your own talent pipeline, and you're showing them in a variety of ways what it looks like to have these so-called soft skills. I want to reflect briefly on that because we resist that term a little bit, although it's very common around the state. And the only reason I resist it is it sounds unquantifiable and it sounds kind of smushy. And we don't like that because we think that the foundation skills that all students really need are firm and measurable. So I want to just speak briefly about foundation skills. And I want to tell you a little bit about an instrument that we use all across the state. Tim and Mike could tell you a lot about it because now I'm going to launch into the sort of connecting activities presentation, if I may. Connecting Activities is a really valuable system. Roy knows a lot about it because he worked with Connecting Activities down in New Bedford. That was your last gig before this. And Connecting Activities is it's the mouse that roared. It's a very small state line item. Sounds like a lot, $3 million. When you try to spread $3 million across a whole state and staff an infrastructure, it becomes very challenging. But here in North Central, Connecting Activities resources do run through Tim and Mike over there, and they are part of our world of how do we bring employers to the table, how do we link you to your local high schools, how do we build out a system that can grow and have enough capacity so many, many more students can get these kinds of sequential, progressive experiences we know that they need. Connecting Activities puts a strong accent on giving students work-based learning experiences, internships, whether paid or unpaid. And we use an instrument called the Work-Based Learning Plan. It's a little bit generic sounding, but what it does is measure the soft skills, which we will now call the foundation skills. And it measures them on a rubric. It's objective, and it enables a worksite supervisor to look at a student at the beginning of an experience and look at that student again at the end of an experience and see whether they've gained skills in all the classic areas: communication, taking initiative, professionalism, which means dress, which means punctuality, interacting with coworkers. It's a pretty compelling instrument for looking at most of those important skills. We're thinking about tweaking it a little bit. I'd like to see it include a computer literacy component. It doesn't do that right now, but I think that has become a foundation skill for virtually every work site. And we want to think a little bit more about the question of problem solving, and which sort of captures, the sort of critical thinking skills. So the tool we use, which has been in use for years and which has measured skill gain in students for years, is itself open to a little bit of modification for a modern 21st century workforce. But I'm proud to say that you can go online and read about this and see it and see how it's been used. And we document student skill gain in these important areas. We've been doing it for years. We roll it up to the state level so that we can make the case that offering students these experiences really makes a difference. And I think we all intuitively know that. If you get young people in your work site, have them for 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is, you're going to shape them up. And they're going to add value to your work site, and you're going to see that you've been part of their training and education. And when you do that, and I don't know if any folks in this room have done that yet, you will almost always want them back. So rather than feeling reluctant, like, oh my gosh, our teens aren't really work ready, the real notion is bring them in and help us train them. I've been to several very funny trainings about the millennial generation, and I'm looking around this room, and I think we have a millennial generation down there. So close your ears. Luckily, you don't have on your flip-flops, but the speech, the title of one of them was, "But these are my work flip-flops." Did you ever wear flip-flops to work? No, never. So in any case, we do know that generations are different, and that is part of our puzzle, and there are some very smart thinking about that. But I think what we can also say about the younger generation of new employees is they have been trained with a technology sensibility that is so wonderful, and bringing that receptivity and confidence with technology and the trial and error and the sort of the testing sensibility and the natural impulse to figure it out is a gift to a company. It's worth the offset of a different set of ideas around professionalism and the things that those of us who are a little bit older are still sort of processing and still surprised by. But I think it's a wonderful challenge to figure that generational issue out. So how am I doing on time, Roy? Am I close to wrapping up? Let me just hit a couple of other highlights that I think are worth knowing about. I've told you a little bit about Connecting Activities. I want to comment that we're very conscious these days about labor market information. We know from the governor on down that we need to address the needs of employers, and we need to be understanding regionally and across the state what the demands and needs are. So one of the tools we've recently developed for our educators and counselors is a primer on labor market information, and we've been running trainings on this. And I think that speaks volumes about the sensibility of education. We are on board with employers about the importance of enabling young people to know what's out there for them. In other words, we don't want kids to pick a terrible major, take on a load of college debt, and not have something to show for it at the end of that important 4-year or 2-year experience. We want to help students help themselves by making sure that educators, counselors, staff in K through 12, staff in community colleges for that matter, are very comfortable with LMI and know how to access it and know how to show students how to access it, so that we really do get to that place where students can log on and say, oh, this is a career with a lot of potential, or this is a career that I could be excited about, or this one pays a lot, I want to go there, or this one doesn't pay a lot, but I don't care, that's my passion. We want our students to have their eyes wide open about what is out there. So we owe them some training on that, and that's a piece of the work we're doing right now. We're also actively involved, my unit is much more actively involved with the career vocational technical world. So I think another really exciting thing that's happening at our agency is internal collaboration. So there was a time, I think it's days gone by, when CVTE, as it's called, lived in this silo over here. And over here was connecting activities, trying to work for kids not in a CVTE environment. And I think we're seeing that that difference is, that gap is closing. And some of you may know that the governor has invested very heavily in career vocational technical education. He's really walking the walk around putting resources into more building more skill-based training, so that this LMI, labor market need, gets directly addressed in thoughtful ways in schools. So that's another exciting part of the landscape right now. And I think the other thing I'll tell you is that it's not just in our agency. There is a real interesting national push to improve the amount of career preparation for all students, to innovate around the structures for it, to bring employers to the table to do it. Recently, Massachusetts received a smallish grant to plan for this. We're one of lots that we joined a lot of states. There's an entity called the Council for Chief School State Officers. It's an umbrella group of all 50 commissioners, including Mitchell Chester and the folks that we work with. And that entity is focused on this nationally. So Massachusetts and 24 other states are going to be revisiting how do we get demand-driven, employer-led decision-making around career preparation. How do we build high-quality career pathways? What do they look like? And a really interesting piece that I think everybody will need to pay a little attention to is, how do we build something into our accountability system around this issue? And by that I mean that which gets measured gets done. How do we make this count? How do we incentivize this? How do we help our school districts, our superintendents and principals and staff build this into their school system because it's in their interest, because they've decided they want to, and because they have there's an incentive to do it. It's not a stick, it's a carrot. How do we help schools integrate this body of work into a very busy schedule and a busy day? So I'm really delighted that Massachusetts has gotten that funding stream, because we'll be joining a community of other states thinking about this very same question and trying to figure out how to grow it here in a way that works for our local districts and in a way that our districts choose for themselves to do. We're not talking, again, we're never talking about a mandate in this area. There's too much to be done as it is.